On the day of my promotion ceremony, my seat was empty. My parents took a cruise instead with my sister. I didn't react. When I stepped off stage, the CEO shook my hand and handed me papers that shifted my entire future. By midnight, my phone showed 74 missed calls, and a message from my mom. "We need to talk." You know how some people say the quietest moments are the loudest? I didn't really get that until the day I stood in front of hundreds of people, lights on my face, cameras snapping, applause echoing off the walls, and saw my seat in the front row still empty. It was supposed to be reserved for my family. My parents. Maybe even my sister if she decided to grace me with her presence. But instead, the chair sat there, untouched. It wasn't just symbolic. It was deliberate. I'd spent the better part of my life being the reliable one. The one who figured out how to juggle 2 part-time jobs while in college just so my parents didn't have to co-sign another loan for my sister's out-of-state tuition. The one who transferred home after sophomore year because my dad said the family needed me around. When mom got laid off, only for her to get rehired 3 weeks later and never say a word. And my sister, Olivia, let's just say she has a talent for turning every favor into an expectation. First it was rides to class, then it was helping her move, then I was covering credit card debt she'd forgotten about. But I didn't mind. At least that's what I told myself. I told myself I was doing the right thing. That they loved me, even if they weren't great at showing it. That one day, they'd understand what I gave up, and they'd be proud. So when I got the email from corporate HR about the promotion ceremony, big event, catered, executive presence. Bring your loved ones! I forwarded it to the family group chat and said I'd save them seats. No response for 2 days. Then my mom replied. Can't make it. Cruise with Olivia. Booked months ago. That was it. No. Congratulations. No. We're proud of you. Just cruise. It was a Tuesday. Mid-August. I remember because it was humid as hell, and I'd sweated through my shirt walking from the parking garage. The ceremony was held in the company auditorium. We had champagne flutes with orange juice, printed programs, and little branded notebooks with gold leaf lettering. My coworkers brought spouses, kids, friends, even neighbors. People were taking photos in front of the stage backdrop. I stood to the side, watching them all laugh and hug. I didn't feel angry. Just numb. I'd been expecting this, in a way. But I didn't expect what happened after. My name got called. I walked across the stage, shook hands with a few department heads. Then the CEO, a guy named Marshall who's usually all business, held on to my handshake longer than usual. He smiled and handed me a slim envelope. I thought it was just the new contract. I'd already signed the initial agreement, but HR said they'd go over final terms in person. Instead, inside the envelope were 2 documents. One confirming my promotion to senior program director. The other was a revised contract. A 6-figure base salary. Stock options. A quarterly performance bonus that could cover my parents' mortgage in one payout. And a handwritten note. Your leadership deserves more than just a title. Let's build something big. I didn't even blink. I folded the papers, slid them into my inner pocket, and walked off stage. That night, I had dinner alone. Thai takeout, beer, and silence. Around 11:45, I finally looked at my phone. 74 missed calls. My voicemail icon looked like it had gone into cardiac arrest. And at the very top, one text from my mother, timestamped 11:02 p.m. We need to talk. When I saw those 74 missed calls, I didn't rush to listen. I didn't call anyone back. I didn't even open the messages. I set the phone down on the counter, opened another beer, and sat there in the glow of my TV screen while some late-night rerun played in the background. For the first time in my life, I felt no obligation to answer them. The next morning, the calls started again at 7. My mom, my dad, Olivia. Back to back, like they'd all agreed to take turns until I caved. My voicemail notifications were stacking up so fast my phone practically begged me to clear them. By lunch, my email inbox was flashing too. Subject lines that looked more like warnings than messages. Call us immediately. This isn't funny. Don't ignore your family. It was almost theatrical. I imagined them sitting in some cruise ship lounge, phones in hand, burning up international minutes trying to claw their way back into my head. I didn't bite. At work, people treated me differently. The promotion had turned me into someone they suddenly wanted to impress, to be close to. I caught my coworkers' expressions when I walked past: respect, curiosity, a little envy. Normally, I'd feel awkward about it. That week, though, it felt like fuel. The more recognition I got at work, the more meaningless my family's approval became. By Wednesday night, my dad's number popped up again. This time I answered. He jumped straight in. No, hello. No. How are you? Just. Trav, listen. We didn't know the ceremony was such a big deal. Your mom and Olivia really pushed for the cruise, and it was already paid for. We figured you'd understand. I said nothing. He filled the silence. But family's family. We should put this behind us. You've always been the dependable one, and that's not something to throw away over one night. That line almost made me laugh. Over one night? My entire adult life had been a string of sacrifices for them. I was the one who kept the power company from shutting their lights off. I was the one who sent just a little help, money to cover Olivia's credit cards. I was the one who got up early on weekends to patch their leaky roof instead of spending time on my own. And the one night I asked them to show up? They were sipping mojitos on a deck chair. I hung up without saying a word. The next day, my phone buzzed again, but this time it was my grandfather. He's the only one who never asked me for anything. The only one who spoke straight. He didn't waste a second. I heard about the promotion. Congratulations. Then his tone shifted. I also heard your parents skipped out. Your mother called me crying, said you were being cold, that you've changed. I asked him what he thought. He chuckled, low and tired. What I think? They're not crying because they missed your ceremony. They're crying because they missed their last chance to remind you they own you. They see it now, they don't have control anymore. That stuck with me all day. It felt like the truth I'd been circling without saying out loud. By Friday, my parents tried a different approach. Texts out of nowhere. We're so proud of you. We knew you'd make it. Pictures from the cruise with fake captions like, wish you were here, and celebrating for you. Olivia even sent me a photo holding up a neon cocktail with a straw umbrella. Her caption, congrats, big bro, drinks on you when we get back, right? It was almost insulting. They thought they could slide right back in, like nothing had happened, like my memory could be wiped with emojis and cheap sentiment. I looked at my phone, scrolling through their attempts, and realized something sharp and final. I wasn't angry. Anger meant I still needed something from them. What I felt now was colder than anger. It was freedom. For the first time in my life, I didn't need them. And they knew it. When my parents got back from their cruise, I already knew what I was going to do. No more favors. No more transfers. No more rescuing. I wasn't going to storm into their house and scream about betrayal. That's what they thrived on: drama, chaos, guilt trips. They were masters at twisting any confrontation into a story where they were the victims and I was the cold, ungrateful son. Instead, I decided to let my actions speak. Silence was going to be my weapon. The first crack came quicker than I expected. On Tuesday evening, Olivia called while I was still in the office. For some reason, I picked up. She didn't even bother with small talk. My car's in the shop. The mechanic says it needs a new transmission. $2,000 minimum. I don't have that kind of money right now. Can you cover it for me? I swear I'll pay you back. Her voice had that practiced urgency I'd heard dozens of times before. And like a recording, I could hear her words echoing from the past, the same ones she used when she begged me to clear her credit cards. I'll pay you back. She never did. This time, I didn't give her a lecture. I didn't tell her how I'd been covering her mistakes for years. I just said, no. You'll figure it out. And hung up. It felt almost unreal, like I'd just broken some unspoken family law. The silence that followed wasn't just from the phone. It was in me too, like I'd finally cut the cord that had been strangling me for years. 2 days later, my dad called. He started casual, asking about work, pretending like nothing had happened. But 5 minutes in, he shifted. Trav, listen. I'm behind on a couple bills. Just temporary, you know how it is. Can you help out this month? It's not a big deal for you now, with your new salary and all. That last part stopped me cold. How did he know about my salary? I hadn't told them. I hadn't told anyone outside of work. The details of my contract weren't public, and HR is notorious for keeping compensation locked down. I asked him straight. Who told you that? He hesitated, then said, Your mom talked to someone who knows someone in HR. Word gets around. That didn't make sense. Not in my company. Salaries were guarded tighter than bank accounts. And the way he said it, like he was already building a case against me, set off alarms in my head. I ended the call quickly, told him I had to go. But the unease lingered all evening. Later that night, I was sitting at my kitchen table eating takeout when my laptop chimed. New email. The address wasn't one I recognized, some throwaway Gmail account with a random string of letters and numbers. The subject line made my stomach tighten. They're planning something. The message was short. No greeting. No signature. Don't trust them. They've been digging into your finances. Ask yourself why. I froze, reading it over and over. At first, I thought it had to be some kind of scam or prank. But it didn't ask me for money, didn't include a shady link. Just that warning. And it made too much sense. My dad had brought up my salary the moment he had me on the phone. He hadn't asked how I was doing. He hadn't congratulated me. He went straight for money. If they were digging, it wasn't curiosity. It was strategy. I didn't reply. I didn't forward it. I just closed the laptop and sat in the dark. For years, I thought the worst they could do was ignore me, dismiss me, or bleed me dry. But now, for the first time, I started to wonder, what if they wanted more than just handouts? What if they saw my promotion not as my success, but as their new opportunity? And who the hell was watching close enough to send me that email? The email sat in the back of my mind like a thorn I couldn't pull out. At work, I kept catching myself staring at my screen, reading the same line of text over and over without absorbing it. Someone was warning me, but who? And why? 2 nights later, I got my answer. I was walking out of the building after a long day when I heard my name. I turned and saw Mark, one of the senior accountants. He wasn't the type to linger or chat, always professional, always in and out. But that night he looked uneasy, like he was about to confess something. You got my message? He asked quietly. For a second, I didn't understand. Then it hit me. The email. That was you? I asked. He nodded, lowering his voice. Your mom called payroll last week. Said she was helping you with your taxes. She asked them to confirm your salary, then pushed for details about bonuses and stock options. When HR refused, she kept pressing. They flagged it and passed it my way. I didn't think you'd want that buried, so I warned you. I stood there stunned. My own mother, pretending to be my tax assistant just to fish for numbers she had no right to know. Mark went on. I've seen this before. Someone in the family gets money, suddenly everyone else starts circling. It doesn't stop with one ask. Be careful. Then he gave me a look like he'd said too much and walked away. On the drive home, I gripped the steering wheel so tight my hands hurt. It wasn't paranoia anymore. They weren't just being careless. They were actively trying to pry open my life, to see what they could grab. That weekend, it all came to a head. Saturday morning, there was a knock at my door. My parents. First time they'd ever shown up uninvited. They didn't even waste time pretending. My mom launched straight into it. She and my dad had been thinking about investing in a small business. A cafe, maybe, or a rental property, and they thought with my new situation, I'd want to partner with them. My dad stood behind her nodding, like it was all reasonable. I didn't move from the doorway. They kept going. It'd be a family thing, my dad said. You'd benefit just as much as us. We've always supported you. This is your chance to give back. That last line almost made me laugh. Give back? After years of draining me dry, they wanted me to bankroll their next bad idea under the banner of family. When I didn't respond, my mom's tone sharpened. Travis, don't you get it? Everything you are, everything you've achieved, it's because of us. We gave you everything. You wouldn't be standing here without us. And that's when something inside me shifted for good. They weren't asking anymore. They were trying to rewrite my entire life into a debt I supposedly owed them. I told them I had a busy weekend, stepped back, and closed the door in their faces. On the other side, I heard my dad's muffled voice say something about me being ungrateful. My mom tried again, knocking once, twice, before giving up. Eventually, I heard their footsteps fade. Inside, I stood there in silence, heart pounding. They weren't just begging. They weren't just manipulating. They were plotting. And if they were willing to dig through HR and show up at my door with schemes, I had to ask myself a harder question. How far were they actually willing to go? After my parents showed up at my door with their little business pitch, something in me hardened. I realized I didn't need to tell them anything. No confrontations. No explanations. Just quiet cuts, one after another, until the cord was gone. The first move was simple, the joint credit card I'd foolishly opened for Olivia in college. Just for emergencies. It had never been for emergencies. It had been her shopping fund, her bar tab, her everything. I logged in, cleared the balance, and closed the account. Done. Next was the gas bill. For years I'd had it set to autopay because they kept forgetting, and the shut-off notices stressed my mom out. I'd been carrying it for so long I didn't even notice the charge anymore. I went in, deleted my payment info, and shut that door too. Finally, I ignored Olivia's usual vague texts. "Rent's late this month, can you help out just this once? My paycheck didn't clear, can you spot me?" This time, I didn't even reply. Watching those texts pile up unread gave me a strange kind of peace. I thought the fallout would be immediate, angry calls, guilt trips, accusations. But that's not how it happened. Instead, it started seeping in sideways, from people I hadn't heard from in years. First, my Aunt Linda called. She opened with small talk, but within 5 minutes she was circling the topic. "You know, your parents have sacrificed a lot for you, Travis. They always made sure you had what you needed. Family has to look out for each other. That's what matters in the end." Then she casually added that Mom had told her I was doing really well financially now, and that it was a blessing for everyone. I didn't say much. Just let her run out of steam until she hung up. The next day, my cousin Eric messaged me on Facebook. "Congrats on the big raise, man. Heard you're killing it. So listen, I'm trying to get this little side hustle off the ground, but we're short on capital. Would love to bring you in." It hit me like a brick. My parents weren't just scheming themselves. They were spreading the word, turning my promotion into public knowledge, like I was a walking ATM everyone in the family could line up for. And then came the kicker. My grandfather called. Unlike everyone else, he didn't dance around it. "Your mother's been running her mouth," he said. "She's telling people you're buying them a house." "A house, Travis? Half the family already believes it." I almost dropped the phone. A house? They weren't just floating rumors. They were rewriting my future in conversations I wasn't even in. Grandpa wasn't finished. "They're going to push this until you either give in or cut them out. I've seen this pattern my whole life. The difference is, you've finally got the power to say no." He told me there was a family barbecue that weekend at my uncle's place, and he wanted me there. I tried to beg off, but he insisted. "Trust me," he said. "It's time you stop letting them set the story." So I went. From the moment I walked into the backyard, I could feel it. The stares. The little smiles. The way people were suddenly warmer, more welcoming than they'd ever been. It was like I'd won the lottery, and they were all waiting for their cut. My mom didn't waste time. Within 10 minutes, she was in a circle of relatives telling them how Travis is finally in a position to take care of the family. And how we're thinking about upgrading to a bigger place soon. She said it like it was already decided, like I had signed papers no one had shown me. My uncle clapped me on the back, grinning. "Good man. Family first. You'll never regret it." Even Eric cornered me again, pressing about his business. I felt like I was standing in the middle of a marketplace where everyone was bidding on me. The only person who wasn't buying into it was my grandfather, sitting off to the side in a lawn chair, arms crossed, watching. When I met his eyes, he gave me a small nod. Not encouragement, more like permission. Permission to finally tear the mask off this entire charade. And standing there, surrounded by relatives who saw me as a checkbook instead of blood, I decided that was exactly what I was going to do. I stood there with a paper plate of food in my hand, listening to my mother tell my relatives about the house I was supposedly buying for them. She laughed like it was already happening, like I was just a formality away from handing over the keys. Something in me snapped. I put the plate down and said loud enough for the group to hear, "I'm not buying anyone a house. That's not happening. Ever." The conversations around us quieted. My uncle looked confused. My cousin Eric froze mid-sentence. My mom turned toward me, her smile stretched tight. "Travis, don't say that here. People will misunderstand." I shook my head. "No, they've already misunderstood because you told them lies. I'm not paying your bills. I'm not funding Olivia's lifestyle. I'm not investing in anyone's business. I'm done being the family wallet." The silence that followed was heavier than I expected. My dad muttered something about me being ungrateful, but my grandfather stood up before I could respond. He stepped into the circle, his voice cutting through the backyard like a blade. "Ungrateful? Let me remind everyone here, Travis is the only one who ever carried weight in this family. He paid your bills, bailed you out of debt, kept your lights on. And you repaid him with excuses and vacations. Now that he's finally built something for himself, you want to bleed him dry all over again. That's not family. That's leeching." The backyard was dead quiet. My mom's face went pale, and my dad stared at the ground. A couple relatives shifted uncomfortably, pretending they hadn't been part of it. Eric gave a weak laugh, like maybe this was all a misunderstanding, but Grandpa cut him off too. "And let me make something clear," he said, looking straight at my parents. "You've spent your lives manipulating and taking, and it ends now. Don't think you'll be inheriting a dime from me, because you won't. I'd rather leave it all to Travis, the only one in this family who understands the value of what he earns." It was like a bomb went off. My mom started stammering about family unity. My dad tried to spin it, saying Grandpa was overreacting. Olivia wasn't even there, probably too busy nursing whatever new crisis she'd landed herself in. But the rest of the family saw it for what it was, a public dressing down they couldn't argue against. I didn't stay long after that. I thanked my grandfather, shook a few polite hands, and left. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. Not the temporary kind that comes after escaping one crisis, but the permanent kind that comes when you realize nobody owns you anymore. In the weeks that followed, the calls and messages slowed down. My parents tried every angle: guilt, apology, anger, silence, but none of it worked. Olivia sent a string of texts about her car emergency that went unanswered. Relatives who'd suddenly discovered me went quiet again once it was clear there was no payout. And through it all, my grandfather kept calling just to check in. No demands. No pressure. Just a voice reminding me I wasn't crazy for finally saying no. In the end, my family got exactly what they had earned: distance. And I got the one thing they could never take from me again: my life back on my terms. The update. It's been 4 days since the barbecue, and the fallout is exactly what I expected: chaotic. My mom has been sending long texts at all hours, switching between guilt trips and fake sweetness. One message will say, "You've embarrassed us in front of everyone, how could you?" And the next will be, "We're so proud of you, let's put this behind us and move forward as a family." My dad has only called once. He didn't even mention the barbecue. He just asked flatly if I could help out with their mortgage this month since things are tight. I hung up. Olivia finally chimed in too. She sent a voice note that was basically a rant about how selfish I was for abandoning them now that I actually had money. Then she ended it by saying she couldn't drive to work until I sent her cash for her car. That one, I didn't even bother responding to. The real surprise has been the relatives. A couple of them reached out privately, but not to ask for money. They apologized. Said they hadn't realized how much I'd been carrying for years. One even admitted my parents had painted me as cold for a long time, but after hearing my grandfather lay it out, they saw things differently. And Grandpa, he called last night. Said, "Proud of you, son. Took you long enough to stop playing their game. Now live your life." That was all. But it meant more than any of the noise coming from the rest of them. So far I haven't caved. I haven't answered a single demand. And sitting here, Eating takeout in peace without my phone blowing up every hour, I realized something I never thought I would. It's actually quiet without them. And I like it.